and welcome to the Rugby Roundup, January 22nd, 2025. I'm Big Mike of Big Mike Sports. Now let's talk some rugby. That's right, the Roundup is back on the horse for 2025 after taking a few weeks off. Thank you for your kind messages. Yes, I got married, and a week and a half in, I am yet to get divorced, so we're doing well in the land of Big Mike. Now, in this week's episode, we will be looking at the final games in the pools of the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup. We will see how Japan League 1 is going after 5 weeks of the top division. We'll be catching up on the URC, the top 14, and the English Premiership over the last few weeks, as well as looking at what's happening in the Women's Premiership in England. And looking forward to this week in rugby, we have the URC Top 14 Premiership and Women's Premiership all having games, as well as the return of Rugby Sevens for the 24-25 season. All things are heating up in the world of rugby, and I cannot wait to let you know all the fun stuff that has been going on. Now, as always, if you would like me to talk about any games, any teams, or any competitions, please let me know. Best places to do so: YouTube, Big Mike Sports, and Instagram at Big Mike Sports NZ. Now, let's get to the roundup. Okay, let's start with the Champions Cup in Europe and South Africa. Reminder, this was 4 pools of 6, only playing 4 games each. Top 4 teams from each pool go into the round of 16 for the Champions Cup. 5th place goes down to the round of 16 in the Challenge Cup, and unfortunately for the teams that finish last in their pool, there will be no more Intercontinental Championship hopes for them. All right, Pool 1. On the weekend, Ulster and Exeter played in a big game to see who would qualify or who would avoid elimination. Ulster taking this one 52-24. I actually watched this one. It was 17 all at halftime before Ulster got ahead 52-17. Bordeaux had a huge win against the Sharks. Now, if the Sharks won this, they would have qualified for the round of 16. But unfortunately, their 12 points were combated by Bordeaux's 66. And in an absolutely destructive game, Antoine Dupont and the Toulouse squad beat Leicester 80 points to 12. Top 4 from Pool 1, Bordeaux, Toulouse, Leicester, and Ulster, with the Sharks going down to the Challenge Cup round of 16. In Pool 2, Clermont took on Bristol in a surviving game. Loser of this one definitely out. Clermont won 33-26. Benetton took it to La Rochelle 32-25, representing Italy well. And Leinster got over Bath 47-21. Leinster, La Rochelle, Benetton and Clermont all qualifying for the Champions Cup round of 16. Bath dropping down to the Challenge Cup, and Bristol getting eliminated altogether. In Pool 3, the Bulls and Stade Francais had a bottom of the table clash which went to the Bulls 48-7. Northampton just snuck through against Munster 34-32. And Saracens went down to Castres 32-24. Top 4 from Pool 3, Northampton, Castres, Munster and Saracens. Bulls dropping down to the Challenge Cup, and Stade Francais getting nowhere. Now Pool 4, final pool, Harlequins got over Glasgow 24-7. Racing 92, 31-22 over the Stormers. And Sale bet Toulon 33-7. Toulon, Glasgow, Sale and Harlequins all making it through. Racing, with their 31-22 victory over the Stormers, survive into the Challenge Cup. Stormers are out of here. So, the Stormers, Stade Francais, Bristol and Exeter are gonskis. Dropping down to the Challenge Cup now. This one had three pools of six top four teams going through to the round of 16 with the fifth place teams from those pools that I mentioned earlier. Bottom two teams being eliminated from contention. In Pool 1, Connacht got over Cardiff 28-19. Lyon had a huge win over the Cheetahs 68-21. And Perpignan went away from home and defeated The 39-21. Connacht, Lyon, Perpignan and Cardiff making it through to their round of 16. The Cheetahs and The are gone. In Pool 2, Montpellier, 26-7 victory over the Newcastle Falcons. Ospreys, 31-28 over Pau. And the Lions and the Dragons faced each other. Loser of this one definitely eliminated. The Lions got in 60-10. Montpellier, Ospreys, Pau, and Lions making it through with Dragons and Newcastle getting out of there. Finally, in Pool 3, Edinburgh got a good victory over Black Lion, 36-15. Scarlets defeated my beloved Varn, 38-28. And Bayonne, huge victory, 55-17 over Gloucester. Edinburgh, Bayonne, Scarlets and Gloucester all making it through. Varn and Black Lion eliminated. In the Champions Cup, the only unbeaten teams surviving are Leinster, Bordeaux and Toulouse. In the Challenge Cup, the only unbeaten teams are Connacht and Montpellier. In the Champions Cup, it will be a first-place team versus a fourth-place team and second versus third throughout the round of 16. In the Challenge Cup, it's first versus fourth again, and a nice mix of second and third place teams, as well as that fifth place team from the Champions Cup, all being mixed together for their games. All of the round of 16 games in both competitions will be taking place in April, after the end of the Six Nations. Now, a quick country-by-country roundup of how the teams have done. Ireland have 3 teams remaining in the Champions Cup, 1 team in the Challenge. Scotland, 1 team in the Champions, 1 in the Challenge. Wales have 3 teams left in the Challenge Cup, with 1 team being eliminated. England, 5 teams left in the Championship, 2 teams left in the Challenge, and 3 teams have been eliminated. Italy, 1 team in the Champions Cup, 1 team is out of there. France, 6 teams left in the Champions Cup, 6 teams in the Challenge Cup, and 2 teams are gonski. South Africa, no teams in the Champions Cup remain. 3 teams in the Challenge, 2 are gone, and Georgia's 1 representative is out of there. It is going to be an exciting time when these competitions return in April. Now let's head to Japan. Japan League 1, a 1.5 round robin. We've got 12 teams in that top division. Currently after 5 rounds. On the top of the table with 5 wins out of 5 is Damien Diolende's Saitama Wild Knights, who finished first in last season's competition before going down in the final to the second place Toshiba Brave Lupus. Speaking of Brave Lupus, they are sitting in second place with 4 wins out of 5. This is Richie Moanga's team. Also with 4 wins out of 5 is Shizuoka Blue Revs, who are in third, with Charles Piatow being a recognisable name on that squad. 4th and 5th, we have 2 teams with 3 wins out of 5. The Cannon Eagles, who have former Highlanders captain Billy Harmon, as well as the Kubota Spears, who have Bernard Foley sitting in the 10 jersey. Results from this week: the Spears took down the Black Rams 26-18. Brave Lupus did have their first loss against Blue Revs, giving them both 4 out of 5. that game being 34-28. The fourth place Eagles got over the Dynabors, the Mitsubishi Dynabors, 47-21. The Kobe Steelers, 50-22, over the D-Rocks. The Honda Heat went down to Suntory Sun Goliath, 27-19. And the Wild Knights sitting on top after their fifth victory, 38-22 over Aaron Smith's Toyota Verblitz. Now, League One does have a week off this week before coming back next week. Now, let's look at a few other competitions who did not have games over the past couple of weeks, but we haven't spoken about on the roundup for a while. We've got the URC, who are 9 rounds out of 18 down and will have 18 of 16 teams qualifying for their final. Leinster are sitting comfortably at the top of the table with 9 wins out of 9, unbeaten in all competitions so far this season. In second place with 6 wins out of 9, we've got the Glasgow Warriors, who of course won the URC last season. Now, interestingly, third from 12th position on the table, they either have 5 or 4 wins each. It's a great little competition in the middle. Now, we do note that the South African teams have played less games and will continue to play some of these in the in the weeks that the other teams missed due to Six Nations action coming up. In the top 14, this is a 14-team competition, obviously, in France. Top 6 will make the finals. They have played 14 rounds out of 26. In first place, we have Bordeaux. In second place, Toulouse. And in third place, Toulon. Now, behind them is a bit of a close one between Clermont, Bayonne, La Rochelle, Montpellier, and Castres, all fighting to stay in that top 6. My beloved Vannes, in their first season in the top flight in France, have only 3 wins from 14 games and sit very comfortably in last. Now, the English Premiership, 10-team competition. It is a depleted competition over the last few years. It's not very exciting to watch anyway. They have had 10 rounds out of 18 so far, with Bath sitting on top with 8 wins out of 10 games. This is a good time to remind everyone that Bath finished 5th in their Champions Cup pool and are dropping down into the Challenge Cup. Now, 2nd through 8th on the table are all very close in the Premiership, with Exeter and Newcastle sitting well at the bottom. Newcastle have 1 more win than Exeter, but sit below them because they don't know how to get any bonus points. Now, one team that did have competition games on the weekend was the Premiership of the Women in England. This one, there's 9 teams. It looks like it's a 5-team race. In first place, Gloucester Hartpury sit with 10 wins out of 13. Second place, Harlequins with 10 wins out of 12. The Exeter Chiefs sit in third, 9 wins out of 11. Saracens and Bristol are 4th and 5th respectively, both with 8 wins out of 12. Bristol is making a comeback. They have a lot of momentum and a lot of fanfare. They've got beautiful jerseys this year. It is all looking good for the Bristol Bears. Now, last weekend, Gloucester Hartpury got a very close 33-31 win over Trailfinders. Harlequins are in second after their 43-10 win over the Sale Sharks. The Chiefs snuck one, 19-15 over the Lightning, and the Bristol Bears continued their momentum with a 43-29 victory over the Leicester Tigers. Well, that is where we are sitting after the games of the last few weeks. Now let's look towards this week and the preview of the upcoming Rugby Spectacular. Now, the URC Top 14 and Premiership have 1 game before going on a bit of a break for the start of the Six Nations, with some of those South African teams playing through. But we'll start with the URC, who are about to go into round 10. Now, first place Leinster this week host the 10th place Stormers. Second place Glasgow host the 13th place Connacht. Third place Cardiff versus the fifth place Sharks, who will be fighting and looking for some momentum after a poor Champions Cup campaign so far. 12th place Lions will be hosting the 4th place Bulls, and in the other top game we have the 6th place Scarlets hosting the 8th place Edinburgh. Now a lot of these teams will be missing top national players who will be warming up for the first round of the Six Nations, so it'll be quite interesting to see how some of these games land. In France, we've got round 15 of the top 14. Top team Bordeaux take on 10th place Lyon. Second place Toulouse will host 7th place Montpellier. Third place Toulon versus 6th place De La Rochelle will be quite a fun encounter. The 11th place will be hosting the 4th place Clermont, and the bottom of the table clash, my beloved Vannes, who are in 14th and last, are hosting 13th place Stade Francais. Now let's go across the channel into England. In Premiership, we have the round 11 clashes. 6th place Sale Sharks are hosting the top of the table Bath. 2nd place Bristol Bears will be going against the 10th place bottom of the table Newcastle Falcons. Exeter, another team sitting at the bottom, will be hosting the 3rd place Saracens. And it's 5th versus 4th as Gloucester host Leicester. Obviously, with all of these teams, there are enough international players to make it exciting from other countries. There's a lot of Kiwis, Aussies, South Africans, Fijians, all over these competitions. In the Women's Premiership, big games this week. We've got 2nd versus 4th as the Harlequins host Saracens. 3rd versus 9th. This is the Chiefs taking on the Sharks. Now, the Sharks do not have a single point registered on the table. And the 7th place Trailfinders will be hosting the 5th place Bristol Bears, who have a lot of momentum, as I mentioned earlier, and will be fighting for higher honours later in the season. There are only 4 rounds left until we get to our semi-finals. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, the top division, Japan League 1, has a week off this week. But coming back this week is the Sevens Series, who will be having their annual round in Australia, hosted in Perth. Friendly reminder going into this one, on the women's side of the draw, New Zealand sitting first on the table, Australia sitting in second, and France in third after the first 2 rounds. New Zealand and Australia taking an event each. On the men's side of the table, Fiji sitting first, Spain in second, France in third, tied with South Africa. Fiji and South Africa have taken an event each. Deciding a big 3 for this week is not easy with all the games and competitions happening around the world. But here are my big 3. Now, if you've only got time to watch a game, follow a game, whatever, maybe make sure it's one of these 3. These are the 3 I'll be following very closely. Let's start in the Women's Premiership in England. 2nd versus 4th, it's Harlequins hosting Saracens. This competition only has a month left before the finals, and things are getting juicy. In the URC, a very intriguing 3rd versus 5th contest as Cardiff host the Sharks from South Africa. And in the top 14, which game are we going with this week? I think you all know. It is the bottom of the table clash with my beloved Vannes hosting Stade Francais. 2 teams eliminated from Europe and fighting not to get relegated in their homeland. Now, in the top 14, the bottom team automatically gets relegated, and 13th place goes into a promotion relegation contest against the 2nd place of the 2nd division. Now, what's coming up in the next few weeks? Next week, we will be starting our coverage of the Six Nations. Believe it or not, that is back. In 3 weeks' time, Super Rugby Americas and Super Rugby Pacific both return, and both are going to be amazing. We've got Japan League One coming back next week as well. And let's not forget, in 2025, it is going to be huge in the international game. We have a Lions tour coming to Australian shores. Can the Springboks, the world champions, continue their dominance around the world? Will France or Ireland conquer Europe, or will it be another team that steps up and takes their place on top of the Northern Hemisphere? And finally, and quite possibly most importantly, towards the end of the year, we're all going to England, baby, because it's the Women's World Cup. So from me, Big Mike, here at Big Mike Sports, this has been the Rugby Roundup for January 22nd, 2025. Thank you for being patient with me and letting me go off on my holiday. But now it's time to focus back on rugby. So from all of us here at Big Mike Sports to all of you listening around the world, make sure you have a beautiful week and you watch some beautiful rugby.